This is Gavin Henning, Associate Professor of Higher Education at New England College and ACPA President. In this month's video update, I want to tell you a little bit about ACPA's July Leadership Meeting. This is one time each year that all of the leadership of the association gets together for 3 days for some training, planning, and some reflection about what's been going on and thinking about what we want to do forward. For this month, we all met July 6th through 9th in Montreal, Quebec, which is the site for the 2016 ACPA convention. We always try to go to the host convention site so we can explore it, check it out, and tell you how wonderful it is. It really is a beautiful city, and I'll tell you more about that in a second. The attendees at this meeting included commission chairs, standing committee, which is now coalition chairs, at the state and international division chairs, our community of practice chair, and then our convention planning team. The first day was really all about training for everybody. And so we first we had a conversation and a talk by Dr. Carl Heel, who's Associate Professor and Director of First People Studies at Concordia University in Montreal. And he shared with us a brief history of First Peoples of Canada. So we learned about the history and some current issues affecting the First Peoples in Canada. Quite educational and informative. That session was followed by an introduction and discussion around the global diversity and inclusion benchmarks. And this was done by our executive director, Cindy Love. This is a set of benchmarks that is used internationally for organizations to determine how well they're doing with global diversity and equity and inclusion. And so we examined those benchmarks and even began doing an assessment of those. We'll continue exploring our progress towards those benchmarks and using those as guides for our work. That was followed then by a demo of My Portfolio. And My Portfolio is a new technological platform that ACPA is developing. And it's actually an online portfolio that individuals can use to document what they're learning, put all types of artifacts that they're using related to their professional experience. And it's also going to be used for content delivery. So in terms of e-learning and other types of professional development. We'll be demoing that at the ACPA convention in Montreal, and so stay tuned for more information to learn about that. And that really concluded our first day of training, and then at that point, all of the individual groups broke up together to be able to do some planning and take a look at what they wanted to do in terms of working collaboratively and providing professional development and resources for the association. As those groups met, ACPA Governing Board had their annual July leadership meeting, and so we spent about 2 days covering a number of topics, and I wanted to kind of update you on a few of those. First, we heard from the Pathways to Leadership Task Force, and this is a task force that was commissioned last year at the July leadership meeting, and is co-chaired by ACPA past President Kathleen Kerr, and also our past Director of Equity and Inclusion, Dr. Kathy O'Bear. And they both looked at what are some of the things that we do well in allowing members to be able to merge into leadership roles, and what are some things that we do as an association that actually hinders that. And so they shared us their observations and some recommendations for change. And now what we're going to be with the membership of ACPA for their review and some public comment. The task force will then integrate that public comment into the report, share that with the board in October, where we'll actually vote on that and decide how to move forward with the recommendations. We also heard from ACPA past President Patty Perillo, who was one of the co-chairs of the ACPA NASPA Professional Competencies Revision Task Force. They were charged by Kent Porterfield and NASPA past President Pat Whiteley to take a look at the professional competencies that were published in 2010. They do have some suggestions for some revisions, and at this point, the NASPA board will be those suggestions during their July leadership meeting, and then both association boards will be voting on those in August. If approved, we'll be sharing those with members in late August, early September, to be used for training and development for the coming year. We also heard an update from the Sexual Violence Prevention Implementation Team. This is chaired by Jody Jessup Anger and Keith Edwards, and this is the next phase of the task force on sexual violence prevention that was commissioned by Kent Porterfield last year. And so their recommendations from the task force were accepted by the governing board, and they're continuing now with the implementation of those recommendations. They'll be finishing up a monograph this month that'll be able to be sent out to members at the end of the summer to be used for the upcoming fall. They're working on developing a Sexual Violence Prevention Institute, an on-site training for preventing sexual violence. And they're in the process of creating a commission, so an entity group within ACPA where people that do this work can come together, share ideas, and learn together. Opportunities for research and scholarship so that we can actually and put those ideas into practice. The governing board also heard from the Digital Task Force implementation team. This is a continuation of the Digital Task Force that was commissioned by Kent Portfield in the field to maximize the use of digital technology. This group is implementing the recommendations accepted by the board. And so they're going to be integrating a digital dissemination plan and taking a look at what do we need to do as an association to be able to get information out digitally to members. They're creating facilitator manuals for what happens on campus stays on YouTube. This is a book that was just published on Amazon in collaboration with Eric Qualman to take a look at digital reputation and help educate students about their digital reputation and what they do and can do both to improve it and also not to negate the good reputation that they're building online. And then they'll also be discussing resources for the forthcoming technology competency. This is an additional competency proposed by the ACPA NASPA Professional Competencies Task Force. And if accepted, we'll need to figure out how do we actually train people to be as competent in that as possible. And so there's a group that will begin looking at that if that competency is accepted. Finally, we heard from the Task Force on Standing Committees, which are now called coalitions. This chair of this committee, chaired by Stacey Pearson Wharton, took a look at the role of standing committees in the association, both historically and what role they're playing now, and provided some recommendations about what we need to do to make sure that all entity groups have a voice and a vote at the table, and what we need to do to make sure everybody feels involved. And we'll continue to explore the impacts of those issues as well. The convention team spent a lot of time looking at the hotels, looking at the convention center, being able to map out where different sessions should be, what the opening session should look like, what the closing session should look like, and also discuss the curriculum. They really want to make sure that this curriculum is not just informational, but transformative. And so the goal really is to make this convention the best ACPA convention in recent history, if not all time. And so they looked at how to be able to pull all of those pieces together in this wonderful city of Montreal, which was just beautiful. They were fantastic hosts. The city is incredible if you've never been there. The hotels and the Palais, which is the convention center, are right on the edge of Old Montreal with all the old architecture, tremendous restaurants. The food was fantastic. It's going to be a great destination city and a great place, education location for our ACPA 16 convention. So if you haven't registered already, please do that. You can do so on the ACPA website. And we're now accepting program proposals. So think about what you might want to share with your colleagues, what you might want to propose a program around, and that will be open until early September. So we hope to see you in Montreal. Take care, and we'll provide more video updates next month.